to Warhammer 40k 8th edition Battle Report 41, 1500 points, Death Guard versus Space Wolves. This will be the big rulebook Maelstrom of War mission, tactical escalation, and we will be rolling for a random map deployment today. Let's begin by taking a quick look around the board at where each of the objective markers have been placed. Beginning in this 2 foot by 2 foot section, objective marker 5 has been placed here next to this crater. Going to this middle 2 foot by 2 foot section, objective marker 4 has been placed up here next to this ruin. In this third 2 foot by 2 foot section, objective marker 2 has been placed right here next to this ruin. Over on the other side of the board, in this 2 foot by 2 foot section, objective marker 6 has been placed up here next to this ruin. In this middle 2 foot by 2 foot section, objective marker 3 has been placed right here next to this crater. And finally, in this 2 foot by 2 foot section, objective marker 1 has been placed right here next to this ruin. And now we will roll for the random map deployment, rolling a 6, which is Vanguard Strike. So on a roll of a 1, 2, or 3, the deployment zones will be in the top left and the bottom right corners. And on a roll of a 4, 5, or 6, it'll be the bottom left and the top right corners for the deployment zones. Rolling a 1, so the deployment zones will be the top left corner and the bottom right. On a roll of a 1, 2, or 3, the Death Guard will deploy in the top left corner and the Space Wolves will deploy in the bottom right corner. On a 4, 5, or 6, it'll be the opposite, so Death Guard will deploy in the bottom right corner and the Space Wolves will deploy in the top left. And here's the roll. Rolling a 5, so the Death Guard will deploy in the bottom right corner and the Space Wolves will deploy in the top left. On a roll of a 1, 2, or 3, the Death Guard will begin to deploy first. On a 4, 5, or 6, the Space Wolves will begin to deploy first. Rolling a 3, so the Death Guard will begin to deploy first. We will be back after the deployment. The deployment is now finished. The Death Guard began to deploy first, but the Space Wolves finished deploying first, and so therefore the Space Wolves will go first unless the Death Guard are able to successfully seize the initiative. Let's take a quick look around the board at where each army placed all of their units. Beginning with the Death Guard deployment, we have the Chaos Land Raider with the squad of 7 Plague Marines, the Plague Surgeon, and the Lord of Contagion all embarked inside. Next, we have the Demon Prince of Nurgle with wings, the first Plague Burst Crawler, the Death Guard Warlord, the Demon Prince of Nurgle, the second Plague Burst Crawler, a squad of 10 Poxwalkers sitting on objective marker 2, and finally the second squad of 10 Poxwalkers ready to march up and take control of objective marker 6. Moving over to the Space Wolves deployment, we have the first squad of 5 Intercessors sitting on objective marker 3, the second squad of 5 Intercessors sitting on objective marker 1, the first Repulsor with a squad of 3 Aggressors and a Primaris Wolf Priest embarked inside, the second Repulsor, also with a squad of 3 Aggressors and a Primaris Wolf Priest embarked inside, the squad of Grey Hunters, and finally the Wolf Guard Battle Leader, who is the Warlord. For this battle report, the Death Guard will have access to 9 command points, and the Space Wolves will have access to 8 command points. For a full overview of both armies with all of the war gear that they are bringing, please check out the pregame show, which was released at the beginning of the group. The link for the pregame show will be in the description down below. And so now the Death Guard will attempt to seize the initiative on a 6, and they fail by rolling a 3. Because this is the Maelstrom of War mission tactical escalation, at the start of the first battle round, but before the first turn begins, each player nominates a single tactical objective type, e.g. take and hold. You score an additional victory point for each tactical objective of that type you achieve. However, you lose a victory point each time you discard a tactical objective of that type. And so the Death Guard will select the tactical objective type Purge, and the Space Wolves will select the tactical objective type Annihilation. And so with that out of the way, let's go into Space Wolves, turn 1. Going into Space Wolves turn 1, a reminder that the Space Wolves have 8 command points available, and the Death Guard have 9 command points available. At the beginning of the turn, the Space Wolves drew 1 new tactical objective card, and they drew Defend Objective 2. Score 2 victory points if you control objective marker 2 at the end of 2 consecutive turns. And objective marker 2 is this one right here, currently being controlled by a squad of poxwalkers. Going into the movement phase, the squad of Grey Hunters is going to move up to 5 inches. The Wolfguard battle leader, who is the warlord, is going to move up to 6 inches, and he will also declare an advance, getting an additional 6 inches. So the Wolfguard battle leader will move up to 12 inches. This repulsor is going to move up to 10 inches. The second repulsor will now move up to 10 inches. The squad of 5 intercessors sitting on objective marker 1 will remain still. Finally, the squad of 5 intercessors sitting on objective marker 3 will also remain still. Going into the shooting phase, this first repulsor is going to fire everything that it has into the Chaos Land Raider, beginning with 2 Iron Hail Heavy Stubbers, 6 shots total, hitting on 3s, getting 5 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 6s, rerolling 1s thanks to the Wolfguard battle leader, getting a wound and a reroll. And here's the reroll. Still failing to wound. Minus 1 AP, so 1 3-up armor save, which fails. So the Chaos Land Raider will fall from 16 starting wounds down to 15. The last Talon, which has 2 shots, and the twin last cannon, which also has 2 shots, can be fired together, since the strength, AP, and damage is the same, and they are both in range, for 4 shots total, hitting on 3s, getting 2 hits. Strength 9 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 3s, rerolling 1s, and getting 2 wounds. Minus 3 AP, so 2 5-up armor saves, and passing both. The repulsor will not be able to fire its Fragstorm grenade launcher or its Crackstorm grenade launcher because there are no enemy targets within 18 inches. The second repulsor will do the same thing. Its Fragstorm grenade launcher and Crackstorm grenade launcher are not in range of any enemy targets, so the 2 Iron Hail Heavy Stubbers, the last Talon, and the twin last cannon will all fire into the Chaos Land Raider. 6 shots from the Iron Hail Heavy Stubber hitting on 3s, getting 3 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 6s, rerolling 1s, and failing to wound. 4 shots from the last Talon and the twin last cannon all firing together, hitting on 3s, getting 3 hits and 1 miss, but the Space Wolves are going to use 1 command point, going from 8 down to 7, for a command reroll to reroll to 2. And here's the reroll, getting all 4 hits. Strength 9 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 3s, rerolling 1s, getting 2 wounds, a reroll, and a cock dice. So rerolling the cock dice first, which will still wound, and now the reroll of a 1, which will also wound. So 4 wounds total. Minus 3 AP, so 4 5-up armor saves. Passing 1 and failing 3, so the Death Guard will use 1 command point, going from 9 down to 8, for a command reroll of their own to reroll the 4. And here's the reroll, and it will still fail. So 3 d6 damage, and it will do 10 damage. So the Chaos Land Raider will fall from 15 wounds down to 5. All of the Grey Hunters are over 24 inches away from any enemy targets, so none of the bolt guns or Stormbolter will be able to fire. However, the Wolfguard Terminator Pack Leader is within 48 inches and can see underneath the repulsor, since it is hovering, and so he will fire his Cyclone missile launcher into the Chaos Land Raider. 2 crack missile shots hitting on 3s, and both fail to hit. This squad of 5 intercessors is over 36 inches away from any enemy targets and therefore will not be able to fire. These front 2 intercessors, one of which is the pack leader, are just within 36 inch range, and they will attempt to fire 2 Stalker bolt rifles into this Chaos Land Raider. 2 shots hitting on 3s, failing to hit. Finally, the Wolfguard battle leader is just within 24 inches for his Stormbolter to fire at full range into the Chaos Land Raider. 2 shots hitting on 3s, getting 1 hit. Strength 4 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 6, rerolling 1s thanks to himself, and getting 1 reroll. And here's the reroll, and it does wound. No AP, so 1 2-up armor save, which fails. So the Chaos Land Raider will fall from 5 wounds down to 4 left. Going into the assault phase, there are no charges to declare. which means going into the fight phase, there are no fights to resolve. And so going into the morale phase, there are no morale checks to take. And so taking a quick look at the tactical objective cards, the Space Wolves failed to complete Defend Objective 2, and they haven't even started it. And at this point, they are going to throw Defend Objective 2 away, and it will not cost them victory points to throw it away because it is not an Annihilation tactical objective type. And so at the end of Space Wolves Turn 1, the score currently sits at 0 victory points for the Space Wolves and 0 victory points for the Death Guard. Going into Death Guard Turn 1, a reminder that the Death Guard have 8 command points available, and the Space Wolves have 7 command points available. At the beginning of the turn, the Death Guard draw 1 new tactical objective card, and they drew Supremacy. Score D3 victory points if you control any 3 objective markers at the end of your turn. And so going into the movement phase, this squad of 10 Poxwalkers sitting on objective marker 2 will remain still. This squad of 10 Poxwalkers will move up to 4 inches, and they will also declare an advance, rolling an additional 5 inches. And so the Poxwalkers will move up to 9 inches. The first Plague Burst Crawler will remain still. The second Plague Burst Crawler will remain still. The Demon Prince of Nurgle, who is the Warlord, will also remain still. The squad of 7 Plague Marines, the Plague Surgeon, and the Lord of Contagion will all disembark from the Land Raider. Now the squad of 7 Plague Marines is going to move up to 5 inches. Now the Lord of Contagion will move up to 4 inches. Next, the Plague Surgeon will move up to 5 inches. The Chaos Land Raider will now move up to 3 inches, now that it's down to 4 wounds. Finally, the Demon Prince of Nurgle with wings is going to move up to 12 inches. Going into the Psychic phase, the Space Wolves will start by using the stratagem Talismanic Shield. For 1 command point, bring them from 7 down to 6. Use this stratagem at the beginning of your opponent's Psychic phase. Choose a Space Wolves character from your army. That character can attempt to deny 1 psychic power this phase as if they were a Psyker. And so this stratagem will be used on the Wolfguard Battle Leader. And so we will begin with the Demon Prince of Nurgle with wings, attempting to manifest Blades of Putrefaction onto the squad of 7 Plague Marines. Blades of Putrefaction has a warp charge value of 5, and it passes with a 10. But the Wolfguard Battle Leader will attempt to deny the Witch, thanks to that stratagem, and also rolls a 10, so it will still go off. Now, the Warlord Demon Prince of Nurgle will attempt to manifest Miasma of Pestilence onto the squad of Plague Marines. And Miasma of Pestilence has a warp charge value of 6, and it will fail with a 4. But the Death Guard are going to use 1 command point going from 8 down to 7 for a command reroll to reroll the 1. And here's the reroll, and it will pass with a 9. Going into the shooting phase, we will begin with this Plague Burst Crawler firing everything that it has into this Repulsor, beginning with the 4 shots from the Heavy Slugger hitting on 4s, rerolling 1s thanks to the Demon Prince, getting 3 hits. Strength 5 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 5s. Getting 2 wounds, minus 1 AP, so 2 4-up armor saves, passing 1 and failing 1. So this Repulsor will fall from 16 starting wounds down to 15. Now for the 2 Entropy Cannons, hitting on 4s, rerolling 1s, getting 2 hits. Strength 8 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 4s, failing to wound. But the Death Guard are going to use 1 command point now that it's the shooting phase for a command reroll, bringing them from 7 down to 6 to reroll the 3. And here's the reroll, and it will wound. Minus 4 AP, so no armor save on the Repulsor, and it will do D6 damage, and it will do 4 damage. So the Repulsor will fall from 15 wounds down to 11. D6 shots from the Plague Burst Mortar, getting 3 shots. Hitting on 4s, rerolling 1s, getting 3 hits. Strength 8 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 4s, but rerolling fails, thanks to the Demon Prince and his Warlord trait. Not that it mattered, getting 3 wounds. Minus 2 AP, so 3 5-up armor saves, failing all 3. And the Space Wolves, now that it's the shooting phase, will use 1 command point, going from 6 down to 5 for a command reroll to reroll the 4. And here's the reroll, and still failing all 3. And they will do D3 damage apiece, and it will do 6 damage. So the repulsor will fall from 11 wounds down to 5. Now the second Plague Burst Crawler will fire everything that it has into the repulsor that is down to 5 wounds. Beginning with the 4 shots from the Heavy Slugger, hitting on 4s, rerolling 1s, getting 2 hits. Strength 5 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 5s, getting 1 wound, minus 1 AP, so 1 4-up armor save, which fails. So the repulsor will fall from 5 wounds down to 4. 2 shots from the Entropy Cannons, hitting on 4s, rerolling 1s, getting a hit and a reroll. And here's the reroll. Still failing to hit. Strength 8 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on a 4, and it wounds. Minus 4 AP, so no armor save on the repulsor, and it will do D6 damage, and it will do 5 damage. And that will finish off the repulsor, which does mean that the Plague Burst Mortar is wasted, but does the repulsor explode on a 6? And it does not. So now the aggressors and the Primaris Wolf Priest inside will emergency disembark. And so now the repulsor will lose its last 4 wounds and be removed from the battlefield. And that is First Blood. Because of the emergency disembarkation, we do need to roll a dice for each model, and on a roll of 1, models are removed. No 1s are rolled, so no models are removed. This squad of 7 Plague Marines is going to fire everything that they have into the squad of 3 aggressors. Starting with the 2 bolt guns in rapid fire range, 4 shots hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s thanks to the beam prints, getting 3 hits and 1 reroll. And here's the reroll. Still failing to hit. Strength 4 versus Toughness 5 means wounding on 5s. Getting 1 wound. All 3 aggressors are technically touching the crater, so we'll give them the +1 to their armor save, and there's no AP on the bolt gun, so 1 2-up armor save, which fails anyways. So 1 regular aggressor will fall from 2 starting wounds down to 1. The 3 plasma guns will all fire rapid fire range supercharged shots, so we will do them 1 at a time, starting with the Plague Champion. 2 shots hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s, getting a hit and a reroll. And here's the reroll. Getting 2 hits total. Regular plasma gun number 1, 2 shots hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s, and a good thing, getting double 1s. And here's the rerolls, getting a hit and a miss, but no more 1s. And regular plasma gun number 2, 2 shots hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s, getting 1 hit and a miss. 4 hits total, however. Strength 8 versus Toughness 5 means wounding on 3s. Getting 4 wounds. Minus 3 AP, but +1 because they're touching the crater, so 4 5-up armor saves. Not that it mattered, failing all 4, and they are 2 damage apiece. So the 1 regular intercessor, who is down to 1 wound, will lose his final wound and be killed off. The second regular intercessor, who has 2 starting wounds, will also be killed off. And finally, the intercessor pack leader will be overkilled from 2 supercharged plasma gun shots, and he will be killed off as well. Since the Primaris Wolf Priest is a separate unit, the damage does not carry over to him. The Plague Surgeon is over 12 inches away from any enemy models, and so he will not be able to fire. Finally, the Chaos Land Raider, which is down to 4 wounds, is going to fire everything that it has into the squad of Grey Hunters. Beginning with 1 shot from the bolt gun from the Combi Flamer, hitting on a 5, now he's down to 4 wounds, rerolling 1s, and failing to hit. D6 shots from the Havoc Launcher, getting 5 shots, hitting on 5s, rerolling 1s, getting 3 hits. Strength 5 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 3s, getting 3 wounds. And these will go into regular Grey Hunters. No AP, so 3 3-up armor saves, passing 2 and failing 1. So 1 regular Grey Hunter will go down, leaving 5 models left alive in the squad. 6 shots from the Twin Heavy Bolter, hitting on 5s, rerolling 1s, getting 2 hits. Strength 5 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 3s, getting 1 wound, minus 1 AP, and this will go on a regular Grey Hunter, so 1 4-up armor save, which passes. 4 shots from the 2 Twin Last Cannons, hitting on 5s, rerolling 1s, getting 1 hit. Strength 9 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on a 2, and it wounds. Minus 3 AP, and this will go on a regular Grey Hunter, so 1 6-up armor save, which fails. And not that it matters, but it will do d6 damage, and it would have done 5 damage. So one more regular Grey Hunter will go down, leaving 4 models left alive in the squad. Going into the assault phase, there are no charges to declare, which means going into the fight phase, there are no fights to resolve. However, going into the morale phase, the squad of Grey Hunters did lose 2 models this turn, but the Wolfguard Terminator pack leader has a leadership of 8, and therefore it is impossible for them to fail. And so taking a look at the tactical objective cards, the Death Guard did complete the tactical objective card Supremacy, because they are currently controlling 3 objective markers on the battlefield at the end of their turn. So it will give them D3 victory points, and they will get 2 victory points. And so at the end of Death Guard turn 1, the score currently sits at 3 victory points for the Death Guard thanks to First Blood, and 0 victory points for the Space Wolves. Going into Space Wolves turn 2, a reminder that the Space Wolves have 5 command points available, and the Death Guard have 6 command points available. At the beginning of the turn, the Space Wolves drew 2 new tactical objective cards, and they drew Big Game Hunter. Score 1 victory point if at least 1 enemy unit with a wounds characteristic of 10 or more was destroyed during this turn. If at least 1 enemy unit with a wounds characteristic of 20 or more was destroyed during this turn, score D3 victory points instead. And that is an Annihilation tactical objective type card, so if completed, it will score an extra victory point for the Space Wolves. The second tactical objective card that they drew this turn was Secure Objective 2. Score 1 victory point if you control Objective Marker 2 at the end of your turn. And Objective Marker 2 is this one right here, currently being held by a squad of Poxwalkers. Going into the movement phase, we will begin with the squad of 3 aggressors and the Primaris Wolf Priest disembarking from this repulsor. The squad of 3 aggressors will now move up to 5 inches. Now, this Primaris Wolf Priest will move up to 6 inches. This Primaris Wolf Priest will also move up to 6 inches. The repulsor will move up to 10 inches. The Wolfguard Battle Leader, who is the Warlord, will move up to 6 inches. The squad of 4 Grey Hunters will move up to 5 inches. The squad of 5 Intercessors sitting on Objective Marker 1 will remain still. And finally, the squad of 5 Intercessors sitting on Objective Marker 3 will also remain still. Going into the shooting phase, this squad of 5 Intercessors will fire their Stalker Bolt Rifles into this squad of 7 Plague Marines. 5 shots, hitting on 3s, getting 4 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 5 means wounding on 5s, getting 1 wound. Minus 2 AP, and the whole squad is not in the crater, so 1 5-up armor save, which passes. The 4 regular Intercessors up on top of the ruin have line of sight and will be able to fire into the squad of Plague Marines with their Stalker Bolt Rifles. The Intercessor Pack Leader down on the bottom, right next to Objective Marker 1, is being blocked by a couple pieces of terrain, and so he will not be able to fire. 4 shots, hitting on 3s, getting 2 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 5 means wounding on 5s and failing to wound. The squad of 3 aggressors will fire their Flamestorm Gauntlets into the squad of 7 Plague Marines. 2 D6 shots apiece for 6 D6 shots total, for a total of 25 shots. This weapon automatically hits, so 25 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 5 means wounding on 5s, rerolling 1s thanks to the Wolfguard Battle Leader, getting 11 wounds and 5 rerolls. And here's the rerolls, getting 2 additional wounds for 13 wounds total. No AP, so 13, 3-up armor saves. Passing 9 and failing 4. 4 5-up disgustingly resilient rolls, rerolling 1s thanks to the Plague Surgeon, and passing 3, failing 1. So 1 regular Plague Marine armed with a bolt gun will be removed, leaving 6 models left alive in the squad. The Wolfguard Battle Leader will fire his Stormbolter in rapid fire range into the squad of 6 Plague Marines. 4 shots, hitting on 3s, getting 4 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 5 means wounding on 5s, rerolling 1s, getting 2 wounds. No AP, so 2 3-up armor saves, and failing both. 2 5-up disgustingly resilient rolls, passing 1 and failing 1, but re-rolling ones thanks to the Plague Surgeon. And here's the reroll, which will pass. The squad of 4 Grey Hunters will fire everything that they can into the squad of 6 Plague Marines. 1 Storm Bolter and 3 bolt guns at full range means 5 shots total, which can be fired at the same time, hitting on 3s, getting 4 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 5 means wounding on 5s, rerolling 1s, getting a wound and a reroll. And here's the reroll. Still failing to wound. No AP, so 1 3-up armor save, which passes. And then 2 crack missile shots, hitting on 4s since he moved, and both fail to hit. The Repulsor will fire its last Talon and its twin last cannon into the Chaos Land Raider, and it will fire its 2 Iron Hail Heavy Stubbers, 2 Crackstorm Grenade Launchers, and 5 Fragstorm Grenade Launchers into the squad of 6 Plague Marines. Beginning with the 4 shots from the last Talon and the twin last cannon together into the Chaos Land Raider, hitting on 3s, getting 3 hits and 1 miss, but the Space Wolves are going to use 1 command point going from 5 down to 4 for a command reroll to reroll the 1. And here's the reroll. Still failing to hit. Strength 9 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 3s, rerolling 1s thanks to the Wolfguard Battle Leader, and of course, rolling 2 2s, so only 1 wound. Minus 3 AP, so 1 5-up armor save, which fails, but the Death Guard will spend 1 command point going from 6 down to 5 for a command reroll in an attempt to reroll the 2. And here's the reroll. And they will pass the 5-up armor save with a 6. 6 shots from the 2 Iron Hail Heavy Stubbers, hitting on 3s, getting 5 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 5 means wounding on 5s, rerolling 1s, getting 2 wounds. Minus 1 AP, so 2 4-up armor saves, passing 1 and failing 1. So 1 5-up disgustingly resilient roll, which fails. So 1 more Plague Marine will go down, the last Plague Marine armed with a bolt gun. And the last Plague Marine armed with a bolt gun was propping up this Plague Marine who was sitting on the edge of the crater, and so he promptly fell over. And in an attempt to put him back up on the crater, besides the fact that he kept falling over, it also bumped the Lord of Contagion slightly, so I tried to put the Lord of Contagion back to where he was supposed to be, and we will just have to remember that this Flail of Corruption Plague Marine is sitting like this on the crater, but he just keeps falling over. So now for 2 Crackstorm Grenade Launcher shots, hitting on 3s, getting 2 hits. Strength 6 versus Toughness 5 means wounding on 3s, rerolling 1s, getting 2 wounds. Minus 1 AP, so 2 3-up armor saves, and passing both. Sorry, 4-up armor saves, because the whole group is not in the crater, so they don't get the benefit of cover. So 2 4-up armor saves, which means 1 will fail, and it will do D3 damage, doing just 1 damage. So 1 5-up disgustingly resilient roll, rerolling 1s, and it will fail. And so 1 Plague Marine armed with a plasma gun will be killed off, which meant, of course, that the other Flail of Corruption fell over as well. Finally, we have the 5 D6 shots from the Fragstorm Grenade Launchers, getting 19 shots, hitting on 3s. Sorry, hitting on 4s, because Miasma of Pestilence was cast onto the Plague Marines, so getting only 6 hits out of 19 shots. Strength 4 versus Toughness 5 means wounding on 5s, rerolling 1s, getting 2 wounds and 2 rerolls. And here's the 2 rerolls, getting 1 additional wound. No AP, so 3 3-up armor saves, passing 2 and failing 1, and 1 5-up disgustingly resilient roll, which passes. So up until I rolled the hit rolls for those 5 Fragstorm Grenade Launchers from the Repulsor, I had completely forgotten that Miasma of Pestilence had been cast onto the Plague Marines. And so I do apologize about that. There was probably a lot of hit rolls of 3, and it is entirely possible that hit rolls of 3 that got through could have affected other dice rolls, which may have resulted in the models, the 3 Plague Marines being removed, or somehow might have kept other dice from wounding. I don't know. Most of the units up until this point, other than the aggressors, should have been hitting on 4s and not 3s. And so I do want to acknowledge that I messed that up, and there's no real good way to make up for that. because really the only way to properly make up for it would be to literally redo every single shooting attack made on the Plague Marines other than the Frag Storm grenade launchers, which were done correctly, and the aggressors, which automatically hit, so they didn't care about Miasma Pestilence. But that would be too confusing and a lot of work, and we'd have to reset up the Plague Marines that were brought down. And there might have been some attacks where no 3s were rolled in the first place to hit, and so we'd potentially be taking away wounds that were legitimately gained. So at this point, we're just going to carry on and remember, for what's left of the shooting phase, which unfortunately is only 2 Primaris Wolf Priests, and that's it, because everyone else is fired already, of course. Kind of realized this mistake well after I needed to. So we're just going to press on and finish out the shooting phase with Miasma of Pestilence, but I do want to acknowledge that that may have affected some wounds placed onto the Plague Marines, and I do apologize for that. And because these 2 Flails of Corruption should be up on the crater and not in front of the crater, the Lord of Contagion is actually going to be closer to both of the Primaris Wolf Priests than the Plague Marines are at this point. So both Primaris Wolf Priests are going to throw crack grenades into the Lord of Contagion, and they will do so separately, starting with this one, the one that is not partially touching the crater. So the crack grenade from the first Primaris Wolf Priest hitting on a 3, because the Lord of Contagion does not have Miasma of Pestilence on him, and it will hit. Strength 6 versus Toughness 5 means wounding on a 3, and it wounds. Minus 1 AP, so 1 3-up armor save, which passes. Crack grenade from the second Primaris Wolf Priest hitting on a 3, and it hits. Strength 6 versus Toughness 5 means wounding on a 3, and it wounds. Minus 1 AP, so 1 3-up armor save, which fails. And it will do D3 damage, and it will do 2 damage, 2 5-up Disgustingly Resilient rolls, re-rolling 1s, and failing both. So the Lord of Contagion will fall from 6 starting wounds down to 4. And so, of course, that's the end of the shooting phase, meaning that realizing Miasma of Pestilence had been cast was far too late to help against anything other than 1 shooting attack. And if that ends up causing problems for the Death Guard down the line, I'm going to feel real bad about that, because that is completely my fault for not remembering a psychic power I cast. Going into the assault phase, there are 3 charges to declare. First, this Primaris Wolf Priest will charge solely into the Lord of Contagion. This Primaris Wolf Priest will declare a multi-charge into the Lord of Contagion and the squad of Plague Marines. And finally, the squad of aggressors will charge solely into the Plague Marines. And we will begin with this Primaris Wolf Priest declaring the multi-charge. And so for Overwatch, we will have 1 crack grenade from one of the Flails of Corruption, and then 2 plasma guns fire supercharged rapid fire shots. So starting with the crack grenade, hitting on a 6, re-rolling 1s, and it fails to hit. Now the Plague Champion will fire his plasma gun, supercharged shots, hitting on 6s, re-rolling 1s, failing to hit. And the regular plasma gun, 2 shots, hitting on 6s, re-rolling 1s, getting 1 hit. Strength 8 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on a 2, and it wounds. Minus 3 AP, so 1 4-up invulnerable save, which passes. Now for the charge range, and he is going through a crater, and he will roll 10 inches. And so after subtracting 2 inches from the 10-inch charge for charging through a crater, 8 inches will be more than enough to make it in. And we can use the Primaris Wolf Priest to keep the Flail of Corruption on the crater. Now for the charge from the other Primaris Wolf Priest, solely into the Lord of Contagion. No Overwatch, so here's the charge range. Rolling 3 inches, which will fail. He literally needed 1 inch more to make it within an inch. So now we will resolve the charge from the aggressors into the Plague Marines. Once again, no Overwatch, so here's the charge, getting 9 inches. And after subtracting 2 inches for going through a crater, 7 inches will be more than enough to make it in. And they have positioned themselves so that the Demon Prince of Nurgle with Wings and the Plague Surgeon cannot heroically intervene. Going into the fight phase, the Space Wolves will begin by using the stratagem Seeking a Saga for 1 command point, bringing them from 4 down to 3. Use this stratagem at the beginning of the fight phase. Choose a Space Wolves character from your army that is within 1 inch of an enemy unit with a greater power rating than that character. You can reroll failed wound rolls for attacks made by that character against the enemy unit. And so this will be used on the Primaris Wolf Priest, who has a lower power rating than both the squad of Plague Marines and the Lord of Contagion, and the stratagem does not state that he has to declare which one it is, simply that the enemy unit has to be a higher power rating. So he will be able to reroll failed wound rolls against either unit. And so we will begin with the squad of aggressors, placing all of their attacks onto the squad of Plague Marines. The aggressor pack leader has 3 attacks base, while the 2 regular aggressors have 2 attacks base, so 7 attacks total, subtracting 1 from hit rolls thanks to the weapon, and subtracting 1 thanks to Miasma of Pestilence, but adding 1 back thanks to charging this turn. So 7 attacks hitting on 4s, rerolling 1s and 2s, thanks to the Primaris Wolf Priest. And there was a 3 in there, of course, so 3 hits and 3 rerolls. And here's the rerolls. Getting 4 hits. Strength 8 versus Toughness 5 means wounding on 3s. Getting 3 wounds. Minus 3 AP, so 3 6-up armor saves. Passing 1 and failing 2. They are D3 damage apiece, but they will go on to separate models. So one of the strikes is 1 damage and the other is 3 damage. The damage wouldn't be able to carry over anyway, so it doesn't matter which one is first. We'll do the 1 damage strike first, so 1 5-up Disgustingly Resilient, which will pass, and then the 3 damage strike, 3 Disgustingly Resilient rolls, failing 2 and getting 1 reroll thanks to the 1, which can be rerolled thanks to the Plague Surgeon, but it won't matter because 2 failed, so 1 Plague Marine will be killed off. So the Plague Marine with the Plasma Gun will be killed off, leaving 3 models left alive in the squad. So now the Death Guard are going to use the stratagem counteroffensive for 2 command points, bring them from 5 down to 3. This stratagem is used right after an enemy unit that charged a spot. Select one of your own eligible units and fight with the next. And this will be used on the Lord of Contagion against the Primaris Wolf Priest. And now the Death Guard will use the stratagem Veterans of the Long War for 1 command point, bringing them from 3 down to 2. You can use this stratagem when a Death Guard infantry unit is selected to attack in a shooting or fight phase. You can add 1 to all wound rolls made for this unit until the end of the phase. And obviously this will be used on the Lord of Contagion. 4 attacks with the Man Reaper, hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s thanks to the Beam Prince. With 6s generate additional attacks. Getting 4 hits. Strength 7 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 3s, but thanks to Veterans of the Long War, wounding on 2s and rerolling 1s thanks to being a plague weapon. And getting 4 wounds. Minus 3 AP, so 4 4-up invulnerable saves. Passing 2 and failing 2. And the Space Wolves are going to use 1 command point, going from 3 down to 2, for a command reroll to reroll the 3. And here's the reroll. Still failing the invulnerable save. And they will do D3 damage apiece, only doing 2 damage. So the Primaris Wolf Priest will fall from 5 starting wounds down to 3. And now the Primaris Wolf Priest will get a chance to attack back, and he will place all of his attacks onto the squad of Plague Marines. 4 attacks with the Crozius Arcanum, hitting on 2s because subtracting 1 thanks to Miasma of Pestilence, but adding 1 thanks to charging this turn. And re-rolling failed hit rolls thanks to himself, and a good thing, getting only 1 hit and 3 1s. And here's the re-rolls, getting all 4 hits. Strength 5 thanks to the Crozius Arcanum against the Toughness 5 of the Plague Marines means wounding on 4s, getting 3 wounds. Minus 1 AP means 3 4-up armor saves, passing 1 but failing 2. And they are 2 damage apiece, but they have to be done separately because the damage won't carry over from model to model. So strike number 1, 2 5-up Disgustingly Resilient, and 1 Marine will go down. And now strike number 2, 2 5-up Disgustingly Resilient, and 1 more Plague Marine will go down. So both Plague Marines armed with Flails of Corruption will be killed off, leaving only the Plague Champion left alive in the squad. And so now the Plague Champion will pile in and fight against the aggressors. 2 attacks with the Power Fist means hitting on 4s, rerolling 1s, getting a miss and a reroll. And here's the reroll, getting 1 hit. Strength 8 versus Toughness 5 means wounding on 3s, but getting to add 1 thanks to Blades of Putrefaction, so wounding on a 2. And it fails to wound, and it's not a plague weapon, so no rerolls. Going into the morale phase, whether they deserve to or not, this squad of Plague Marines lost 6 models this turn, and therefore they will have to take a morale check. But the Death Guard are going to use the stratagem Insane Bravery for 2 command points, bring them from 2 down to 0. You can automatically pass a single morale test. This stratagem must be used before taking the test. And so the squad of Plague Marines will survive. And so taking a look at the tactical objective cards, possibly as karma for forgetting about the Psychic Power Miasma of Pestilence, the Space Wolves failed to complete Big Game Hunter, even though the Chaos Land Raider was already down to 4 wounds at the beginning of the turn. So they will fail to complete Big Game Hunter, but they will hold on to it. And they also failed to complete Secure Objective 2 because it's on the other side of the map and being held by a squad of Poxwalkers, and they will throw Secure Objective 2 away. And so at the end of Space Wolves turn 2, the score currently sits at 0 victory points for the Space Wolves and 3 victory points for the Death Guard. Going into Death Guard turn 2, a reminder that the Death Guard have 0 command points available, and the Space Wolves have 2 command points available. At the beginning of the turn, the Death Guard drew 2 new tactical objective cards, and they drew Hold the Line. Score 1 victory point if you have at least 3 units completely within your deployment zone and your opponent has no models within your deployment zone at the end of your turn. This objective cannot be achieved on your first turn. And Advance. Score 1 victory point if no unit from your army is within your deployment zone at the end of your turn. And so going into the movement phase, this squad of 10 Poxwalkers sitting on objective marker 2 will remain still. This squad of 10 Poxwalkers sitting on objective marker 6 will also remain still. This Plague Burst Crawler will remain still. The second Plague Burst Crawler will remain still. The Warlord, Demon Prince and Nurgle will also remain still. The Lord of Contagion will remain locked in combat with the Primaris Wolf Priest. The Plague Champion will remain locked in combat with the squad of aggressors. The Plague Surgeon is going to move up to 5 inches. The Demon Prince and Nurgle with Wings is going to move up to 12 inches. Finally, the Chaos Land Raider will move up to 3 inches. Going into the Psychic phase, the Warlord Demon Prince and Nurgle will attempt to manifest Miasma of Pestilence onto the Chaos Land Raider, which is down to 4 wounds. And Miasma of Pestilence is a warp charge value of 6, and it will go off with a 9. Finally, the Demon Prince and Nurgle with Wings will attempt to manifest Blades of Putrefaction onto himself. And Blades of Putrefaction is a warp charge value of 5, and that will pass with an 11. Going into the shooting phase, we will begin with this Plague Burst Crawler, which will fire everything that it has into this Repulsor. 4 shots from the Heavy Slugger, hitting on 4s, rerolling 1s, and getting 4 hits. Strength 5 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 5s, getting 2 wounds. Minus 1 AP, so 2 4-up armor saves, and failing both. So the Repulsor will fall from 16 starting wounds down to 14. 2 shots from the Entropy Cannons, hitting on 4s, rerolling 1s, and getting 2 hits. Strength 8 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 4s, and failing to wound. D6 shots from the Plague Burst Mortar, getting 5 shots, hitting on 4s, rerolling 1s, getting 1 hit. Strength 8 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on a 4, rerolling fails, thanks to being a Plague Weapon and the Warlord's Warlord trait, getting a reroll. And here's the reroll, getting a wound. Minus 2 AP, so 1 5-up armor save, which fails. And it will do D3 damage, and it will do 3 damage. So the Repulsor will fall from 14 wounds down to 11. Now the second Plague Burst Crawler will fire everything that it has into the Repulsor that is down to 11 wounds. 4 shots from the Heavy Slugger, hitting on 4s, getting 3 hits. Strength 5 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 5s, getting 2 wounds. Minus 1 AP, so 2 4-up armor saves, failing both again. So the Repulsor will fall from 11 wounds down to 9. 2 shots from the Entropy Cannons, hitting on 4s, rerolling 1s, getting a miss and a reroll. And here's the reroll, still failing to hit. D6 shots from the Plague Burst Mortar, getting 1 shot, hitting on 4 rerolling 1s and failing to hit. This Chaos Land Raider will fire everything that it has into this Repulsor, beginning with 4 shots from the 2 Twin Last Cannons, hitting on 5s, rerolling 1s thanks to the Demon Prince, getting 2 hits and 1 reroll. And here's the reroll, getting a 3rd hit. Strength 9 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 3s, getting 2 wounds. Minus 3 AP, so 2 6-up armor saves, passing 1 and failing 1. And it will do D6 damage, and it will do 6 damage. so the repulsor will fall from 9 wounds down to 3. 6 shots from the twin heavy bolter, hitting on 5s, rerolling 1s. Getting 1 hit and 2 rerolls. And here's the rerolls, getting 2 hits total. Strength 5 versus toughness 8 means wounding on 5s. Failing to wound. D6 shots from the Havoc Launcher, getting 1 shot. Hitting on 5, rerolling 1s, failing to hit. 2 shots from the bolt gun portion of the Combi Flamer, because that's the only thing in range, but it is rapid fire range, so 2 shots, hitting on 5s, rerolling 1s, getting 1 reroll. And here's the reroll, still failing to hit. Finally, the Plague Surgeon will fire a bolt pistol into the repulsor. 1 shot, hitting on a 3, rerolling 1s, getting a hit. Strength 4 versus toughness 8 means wounding on a 6, and it fails to wound. Going into the assault phase, there are 2 charges to declare. First will be the Plague Surgeon declaring a multi-charge into the squad of aggressors and the Primaris Wolf Priest. And the second charge will be the Demon Prince and Nurgle with Wings declaring a multi-charge into the squad of aggressors and the Repulsor, with the aggressors being the primary target. And so we will begin with the Plague Surgeon. No Overwatch, so the Plague Surgeon will have a charge range of 10 inches. And after subtracting 2 inches for charging through a crater, that will be more than enough to make it into combat. And he is very wobbly on the side of the crater, being supported by the Primaris Wolf Priest and the squad of aggressors. And now for the charge from the Demon Prince. But the Repulsor will get a chance to Overwatch. So 4 shots from the Last Talon and Twin Last Cannon, hitting on 6s, getting 1 hit. Strength 9 versus toughness 6 means wounding on a 3, rerolling 1s, thanks to the Wolfguard Battle Leader, and getting a 1. So here's the reroll, and still failing to wound. 2 shots from the Crackstorm Grenade Launchers, hitting on 6s, getting 1 hit. Strength 6 versus toughness 6 means wounding on 4, rerolling 1s, getting a wound, minus 1 AP, so 1 3-up armor save, which passes. 6 shots from the Iron Hail Heavy Stubber, hitting on 6s, all fail to hit, no rerolls when it comes to hit rolls. 5 D6 shots from the Fragstorm Grenade Launchers, getting 14 shots, hitting on 6s, getting 3 hits. Strength 4 versus toughness 6 means wounding on 5s, rerolling 1s, getting 1 wound, no AP, so 1 2-up armor save, which passes. And now for the charge range, getting 5 inches. And the Demon Prince of Nurgle with Wings will be able to avoid the crater, so 5 inches will be enough. Just barely avoiding the outside of the crater, and is now in combat with both, because the model is actually touching the repulsor. And so at the end of the charge phase, this Primaris Wolf Priest is going to heroically intervene, and thanks to the Space Wolves special rule Hunters Unleashed, he can heroically intervene up to 6 inches. And so he will heroically intervene into combat with the Demon Prince and Nurgle with Wings. So going into the fight phase, we will begin with the Demon Prince and Nurgle with Wings, who will place all of his attacks onto the Repulsor. 7 attacks base with the 2 sets of Malefic Talons, hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s, 6s generate additional attacks, getting 5 hits, and 2 rerolls. And here's the 2 rerolls, only getting 6 hits. Strength 7 versus toughness 8, but plus 1 to wound rolls, thanks to Blades of Putrefaction, so wounding on 4s. Getting 3 wounds. Minus 2 AP, so 3 5-up armor saves. Passing 2 and failing only 1. And it is only 2 damage, so the Repulsor will fall from 3 wounds down to 1 left. And now the Space Wolves will use the stratagem counteroffensive for 2 command points, bring them from 2 down to 0. This stratagem is used right after an enemy unit that charges fought. Select one of your own eligible units and fight with the next. And so the squad of 3 aggressors will be chosen to fight next. The 2 regular aggressors will place all of their attacks onto the Demon Prince, while the aggressor pack leader will place his 3 attacks onto the Plague Surgeon. So starting with the 4 attacks from the regular aggressors onto the Demon Prince and Nurgle with Wings, they were charged by the Demon Prince, and so all of the models in the squad will get to add 1 to hit rolls. They have to subtract 1 thanks to the gauntlets, so they will get to hit normally. So 4 attacks hitting on 3s, rerolling thanks to the Primaris Wolf Priest, and getting all 4 hits. Strength 8 versus toughness 6 means wounding on 3s. Getting 3 wounds. Minus 3 AP, so 3 5-up and vulnerable saves. passing 1 and failing 2. And they will do D3 damage apiece, and they will do 4 damage. 4 5-up disgustingly resilient rolls, failing all 4. So the Demon Prince and Nurgle with Wings will fall from 8 starting wounds down to 4 left. However, thanks to the separating plate, the 1 wound that was saved could potentially reflect back on a 4-up, and it will. So 1 regular aggressor will fall from 2 starting wounds down to 1 left thanks to suffering a mortal wound. Now the 3 attacks from the pack leader onto the Plague Surgeon, hitting on 3s and re-rolling thanks to the Primaris Wolf Priest, so getting 2 hits and a re-roll. And here's the re-roll, getting all 3 hits. Strength 8 versus Toughness 5 means wounding on 3s, getting 3 wounds. Minus 3 apiece, so 3 6-up armor saves, failing all 3. 3 D3 damage, and it will do 6 damage. 6 5-up disgustingly resilient rolls, re-rolling 1s thanks to himself. Passing 4, failing 2. So the Plague Surgeon will fall from 4 starting wounds down to 2 left. And now the Plague Surgeon, who is the final charging unit, will attack next. And he will place all of his attacks onto the Primaris Wolf Priest. 3 attacks with the Bale Sword, normally hitting on 3s, but since he's attacking an Adeptus Astartes infantry unit, he gets to add 1 to both hit and wound rolls. So 3 attacks hitting on 2s, re-rolling 1s thanks to the Demon Prince. Getting 2 hits, 1 re-roll. And here's the re-roll, getting a 5, which thanks to the +1 to hit rolls, becomes a 6, which means he generates an additional attack thanks to Death to the False Emperor. So here's the extra attack, which will also hit, but no further attacks are generated. Strength 4 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 4s, but adding 1 to wound rolls, so actually 3s wound and re-rolling 1s thanks to being a plague weapon. So 2 wounds, 2 re-rolls. And here's the re-rolls, getting all 4 wounds. Minus 3 apiece, so 4 4-up invulnerable saves. Passing 1, but failing 3. And the Space Wolves have no more command points left, so that will finish off the 3 wounds on the Primaris Wolf Priest. And the Plague Surgeon is already pretty much in base to base, so he cannot consolidate. But this now means that all of the charging units have gone, so now the armies will go back and forth, starting with the Death Guard since it's their turn, with units who are already locked. So we will begin with the Lord of Contagion, who will get to pile in up to 3 inches. And so he is now locked in combat with the aggressors. 4 attacks with the Man Reaper, hitting on 2s, re-rolling 1s, getting 3 hits and 1 re-roll, and 6s generate additional attacks. So here's the reroll on the 1, which will hit, and now the additional attack, which will also hit. Strength 7 versus Toughness 5 means wounding on 3s, rerolling 1s thanks to being a plague weapon, and getting 4 wounds, minus 3 AP, so 4 6-up armor saves, failing all 4. So strike number 1 will do D3 damage, not that it matters, as there's already a wounded model in the group, so strike number 1 will finish off the wounded aggressor. Strike number 2 will do D3 damage, and it does 3, so that will kill off the second normal aggressor, which means that the final 2 strikes will both go on to the aggressor pack leader, because he's the only one left in the squad, which means he is guaranteed to die, and it will perfectly kill him off, with 2 damage total. So all 3 aggressors will be killed off. So the aggressors are now removed, and because they were removed, this guy began to fall over again, so he has been inched forward a little bit, just so that he won't fall over. He will be moved back into place. He should really be right about here, but he keeps falling over in this position, so we will put him here for now. And so the Lord of Contagion will now consolidate up to 3 inches. And he is now locked in combat with the other Primaris Wolf Priest. So now the Primaris Wolf Priest that is at full health will attack, and he will place his attacks onto the Lord of Contagion. 4 attacks against the Lord of Contagion, hitting on 2s, re-rolling, getting 4 hits. Strength 5 versus Toughness 5 means wounding on 4s, no re-rolls, so getting 2 wounds, minus 1 AP, so 2 3-up armor saves, passing both. Finally, from the Death Guard side, the Plague Champion will get to pile in up to 3 inches. And in the process of piling him into combat, the Plague Surgeon fell over again. So now the Plague Champion will place his attacks onto the Primaris Wolf Priest. 2 attacks with the Power Fist, hitting on 4s, rerolling 1s, getting a hit and a reroll. And here's the reroll, still failing to hit. Strength 8 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on a 2. and it wounds. Minus 3 AP, so 1 4-up invulnerable save, which passes. Finally, the repulsor will attack the Demon Prince. 1 attack, hitting on a 6, which fails to hit, but rerolling thanks to the Primaris Wolf Priest. And here's the reroll. Still failing to hit. And so going into the morale phase, there are no morale tests to take. Taking a look at the tactical objective cards, the Death Guard did successfully complete Hold the Line for 1 victory point, and they failed to complete Advance, and they will throw Advance away. And so at the end of Death Guard turn 2, the score currently sits at 4 victory points for the Death Guard and 0 victory points for the Space Wolves. Going into Space Wolves turn 3, a reminder that the Space Wolves have 0 command points available, and the Death Guard also have 0 command points available. A reminder that the Space Wolves held on to the tactical objective card Big Game Hunter from the previous turn, and so they drew 2 new tactical objective cards, first of which is Secure Objective 5, score 1 victory point if you control Objective Marker 5 at the end of your turn, and the second tactical objective card is Unleash the Wolves, score 1 victory point at the end of your charge phase if at least 2 friendly Space Wolf units made a successful charge in that phase. And Objective Marker 5 is this one right here, currently being controlled by the Wolf Guard Battle Leader. And we do need to go back briefly to Space Wolves turn 2, because I completely forgot that the Primaris Wolf Priest who was killed off in Death Guard turn 2 should have re-rolled failed wound rolls against the Plague Marine squad. And there was 1 failed wound roll. So we will go back briefly and resolve that. Luckily, the Plague Champion, who was the only model left alive at the end of that phase, failed to get any wound rolls in either fight phases that he participated in. If he is killed off, then that means that the Death Guard will get victory points back because they would not have needed to use Insane Bravery because the squad would have been wiped out. So 1 failed wound roll needs to be re-rolled on a 4 and it will wound. Minus 1 AP, so 1 4-up armor save, which fails. It does 2 damage, so 2 5-up disgustingly resilient rolls, and failing both. So this means that the Plague Champion should have been finished off and will be killed off. But this will mean that the Death Guard will get 2 command points back, because they would not have been able to use the stratagem Insane Bravery. And I strongly dislike having to go back and redo stuff, but this would be an absolutely huge deal, because the Death Guard would have used those victory points to help finish off the Repulsor, and they would have had a couple opportunities to do that. When this Plague Burst Crawler fired its Plague Burst Mortar into the Repulsor, it rolled a 1 for the number of shots, which then of course missed. So we will retroactively go back, use one of the 2 regained command points to re-roll the number of shots. Of course, if it rolls a 1, once again, then nothing else will happen from that shooting phase. If it rolls more than a 1, we will resolve the extra shots. We will still keep the 1 shot that was resolved, however. And this is very important because killing that Repulsor is critical to keeping the Chaos Land Raider alive. So the Death Guard will go from 2 command points down to 1, and they will re-roll the 1 from before on the number of shots. And now they get a 6, which is a huge difference. So obviously 1 shot was already resolved before, so now the 5 new shots, hitting on 4s, re-rolling 1s, getting 2 hits and 1 reroll, and here's the reroll, getting a 3rd hit. Strength 8 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 4s, re-rolling thanks to being a plague weapon, and with the Warlord trait, Arch Contaminator nearby, 2 wounds, 1 reroll. And here's the reroll, still failing to wound. Minus 2 AP, so 2 5-up armor saves, passing 1 and failing 1. And it would have done D3 damage, and it would have done 2 damage, which is actually perfect, because that means we then don't have to go back and redo the Demon Prince's attacks, because had the Repulsor been killed in the shooting phase, the Demon Prince would have attacked something else in the fight phase, such as putting all of his attacks on the aggressors instead, which means they probably wouldn't have been able to attack him. So the fact that only 2 damage was done is perfect, because the Demon Prince still would have needed to finish off the Repulsor in the fight phase. Does it explode on a 6? And it does not. So I do apologize about that, and it's very unfortunate for the Space Wolves, but this Repulsor is killed off. And of course, the Demon Prince still would have been locked in combat with the Primaris Wolf Priest, and now the Death Guard will still have 1 command point left to use in this game. So now going into the movement phase. This squad of 5 intercessors will remain still. This squad of 5 intercessors will also remain still. The Primaris Wolf Priest is going to fall back out of combat up to 6 inches. The Wolf Guard Battle Leader is going to move up to 6 inches. Finally, the Grey Hunters and the Grey Hunter Pack Leader in the Grey Hunter squad will move up to 6 inches, and the Wolf Guard Terminator Pack Leader will remain still. Going into the shooting phase, we will begin with the squad of Grey Hunters firing everything that they can into the Chaos Land Raider, which is down to 4 wounds. Beginning with 2 crack missile shots from the Cyclone Missile Launcher, which did remain still, so hitting on 4s because of Miasma of Pestilence, and both hit. Strength 8 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 4s, rerolling 1s, thanks to the Wolf Guard Battle Leader getting a fail and a reroll. And here's the reroll. Still failing to wound. 3 bolt guns and 1 storm bolter at full range means 5 shots total, hitting on 4s, getting only 1 hit. Strength 4 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on a 6, rerolling 1s, and failing to wound. The Wolf Guard Battle Leader will fire a storm bolter in rapid fire range into the Chaos Land Raider. 4 shots hitting on 4s, getting 2 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 6s, rerolling 1s, and failing to wound. The 4 regular intercessors up on top are out of 36-inch range from the Chaos Land Raider, and so they will fire their Stalker Bolt rifles into the Demon Prince and Nurgle with Wings, because it is the closest visible enemy unit within range. 4 shots hitting on 3s, getting 2 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 6 means wounding on 5s and failing to wound. This squad of 5 intercessors will have the 4 in front fire their Stalker Bolt rifles into the Chaos Land Raider in a desperate attempt to finish it off, and the one in the back is over 36 inches away, just barely, but luckily for him, the closest enemy unit is the Demon Prince of Nurgle with Wings, and so he will fire a Stalker Bolt rifle into the Demon Prince of Nurgle with Wings. So 1 shot into the Demon Prince, hitting on a 3, and it hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 6 means wounding on a 5, and it fails to wound. 4 shots now into the Chaos Land Raider, hitting on 4s, getting 2 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 6s, and failing to wound. Going into the assault phase, there are no charges to declare, so going into the fight phase, there are no fights to resolve. Going into the morale phase, there are no morale checks to take. So taking a quick look at the tactical objective cards, once again the Space Wolves have failed to complete Big Game Hunter. They did, however, successfully complete Secure Objective 5 for 1 victory point, and since they did not charge, they failed to complete Unleash the Wolves, which at this point they will throw away. And so at the end of Space Wolves Turn 3, the score currently sits at 1 victory point for the Space Wolves and 4 victory points for the Death Guard. Going into Death Guard Turn 3, a reminder that the Death Guard have 1 command point, thanks to things being redone in Space Wolves Turn 3, and the Space Wolves have 0 command points available. At the beginning of the turn, the Death Guard drew 3 new tactical objective cards, and they drew Domination. Score D3 plus 3 victory points if you control every objective marker on the battlefield at the end of your turn. Secure Objective 4, score 1 victory point if you control objective marker 4 at the end of your turn. And Secure Objective 5, score 1 victory point if you control objective marker 5 at the end of your turn. And Objective Marker 4 is this one right here, currently being controlled by a Plague Burst Crawler. And Objective Marker 5 is this one right here, currently being controlled by a squad of Grey Hunters. So going into the movement phase, the Lord of Contagion is going to move up to 4 inches. The Plague Surgeon is going to move up to 5 inches. And I did move him back to his original position, which was up on the lip of the crater. The Chaos Land Raider, which is somehow still alive with 4 wounds, will move up the board up to 3 inches. The Demon Prince and Nurgle with wings is going to move up to 12 inches. This squad of 10 Poxwalkers sitting on Objective Marker 2 will remain still. This squad of 10 Poxwalkers sitting on Objective Marker 6 will also remain still. The Plague Burst Crawler controlling Objective Marker 4 will remain still. The second Plague Burst Crawler will also remain still. And finally, the Warlord, Demon Prince and Nurgle will remain still. Going into the Psychic phase, the Demon Prince and Nurgle with wings is going to attempt to manifest Blades of Putrefaction onto the Lord of Contagion. And Blades of Putrefaction is a warp charge value of 5, and it fails with a 4. And the Demon Prince and Nurgle, who is the Warlord, will attempt to manifest Miasma of Pestilence onto the Chaos Land Raider. And Miasma of Pestilence is a warp charge value of 6, and that will pass with an 11. So going into the shooting phase, this Chaos Land Raider is going to fire everything that it has into the Wolfguard Battle Leader because it is the closest visible enemy unit. Beginning with the 2 Twin Last Cannons. 4 shots hitting on 5s. No rerolls because the Demon Prince is too far away. Getting 1 hit. Strength 9 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on a 2, and it wounds. Minus 3 AP, so 1 4-up invulnerable. Which fails, and it will do D6 damage, and it will do 4 damage. Thanks to his Warlord trait, Saga of the Bear, he is 5 starting wounds instead of his normal 4, which means he will go from 5 starting wounds down to 1, but is not dead yet. 6 shots from the Twin Heavy Bolter, hitting on 5s, getting 3 hits. Strength 5 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 3s, getting 1 wound. Minus 1 AP, so 1 4-up invulnerable save, which also fails. And so that will finish off the final wound on the Wolfguard Battle Leader, and he is killed off. Which means the Death Guard will achieve Slay the Warlord, and the rest of the weapons on the Chaos Land Raider will go to waste. The Plague Surgeon will now throw a crack grenade at the Primaris Wolf Priest, because it is the closest visible enemy unit. 1 shot, hitting on a 3. And it hits. Strength 6 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on a 3, and it wounds. Minus 1 AP, so 1 4-up invulnerable save, which fails. And it will do D3 damage, and it will do 1 damage. So the Primaris Wolf Priest will fall from 5 starting wounds down to 4. And I do apologize, I'm forgetting pretty much everything today, and it's making this a very, very messy battle report. But because the Primaris Wolf Priest is in the crater, he would also get +1 to his armor save, which means he should have had a 3-up armor save instead of a 4-up invulnerable save. Luckily, it didn't matter because he rolled a 1, so it would have failed either way, but I did say the save incorrectly when I was actually rolling for it. So he had a 3-up armor, which did fail, and resulted in 1 damage. So now this Plague Burst Crawler will fire everything that it has into this squad of 4 Grey Hunters. Beginning with 4 shots from the Heavy Slugger, hitting on 4s, rerolling 1s, getting a hit and a reroll. And here's the reroll, getting 2 hits total. Strength 5 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 3s, getting 2 wounds. Minus 1 AP, and they are not in cover, so 2 4-up armor saves on regular Grey Hunters, passing 1 and failing 1. So 1 regular Grey Hunter will go down. 2 shots from the Entropy Cannons, hitting on 4s, rerolling 1s, getting a hit and a reroll. And here's the reroll, getting 2 hits. Strength 8 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 2s, getting 1 wound. This will be taken on a regular Grey Hunter, and so minus 4 AP means no armor save, and it will do D6 damage. Not that it matters, because regular Grey Hunters are only 1 wound apiece. So the final regular Grey Hunter will be removed. Now for D6 shots from the Plague Burst Mortar, getting 5 shots, hitting on 4s, rerolling 1s, getting 4 hits and 1 reroll. And here's the reroll, still failing to hit. Strength 8 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 2s, rerolling thanks to being a plague weapon, getting 3 wounds and a reroll. And here's the reroll, getting all 4 wounds. Minus 2 AP, and these do have to be done 1 at a time because the Grey Hunter Pack Leader has a different save from the Wolfguard Terminator Pack Leader. And the Grey Hunter Pack Leader will be going first, so shot number 1, minus minus 2 AP, a 5-up armor save, which fails. And not that it matters, but it does D3 damage, and it does 3 damage, of course. So that will finish off the Grey Hunter pack leader, leaving only the Wolfguard Terminator pack leader alive in the squad. But there's still 3 wounds to be resolved at minus 2 AP, so the Wolfguard Terminator pack leader is going to take 3-up invulnerable saves, passing 2 but failing 1. And it will do D3 damage, and it will do 1 damage. And because the Wolfguard Terminator pack leader only has 2 wounds, the Death Guard are going to use 1 command point going from 1 down to 0 for a command reroll to reroll the damage result. And here's the reroll, and they do get a 2. So the Wolfguard Terminator pack leader will be finished off, and the squad of Grey Hunters is wiped out. So finally, this Plague Burst Crawler will fire everything that it has into the Primaris Wolf Priest because it is the closest visible enemy unit. Beginning with 4 shots from the Heavy Slugger, hitting on 4s, rerolling 1s. All fail to hit. 2 shots from the Entropy Cannons, hitting on 4s, rerolling 1s, getting 2 hits. Strength 8 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 2s, getting 2 wounds. Minus 4 AP, so 2 4-up invulnerable saves, passing 1 and failing 1. And it is D6 damage, and it will do 5 damage. So the Primaris Wolf Priest will lose its last 4 wounds and be removed. And this, of course, will mean that the Plague Burst Mortar will go to waste. So going into the Assault phase, there are no charges to declare, which means going into the Fight phase, there are no fights to resolve. Going into the Morale phase, there are no morale checks to take. And so taking a look at the tactical objective cards, the Death Guard failed to complete Domination. However, they did successfully complete Secure Objective 4 for 1 victory point, and they also successfully completed Secure Objective 5 for 1 victory point as well. And at this point, they will throw Domination away. And so at the end of Death Guard turn 3, the score currently sits at 7 victory points for the Death Guard, thanks to Slay the Warlord, and 1 victory point for the Space Wolves. Going into Space Wolves turn 4, a reminder the Space Wolves have 0 command points available, and the Death Guard also have 0 command points available. Also a reminder at the beginning of the turn that the Space Wolves held on to the tactical objective card Big Game Hunter from previous turns, and they also drew 3 new tactical objective cards, and they drew Counterattack, score 1 victory point if a friendly Space Wolves unit makes a heroic intervention. The Heroes of Fenris score 1 victory point if at least 1 friendly Space Wolves character begins the fight phase within 1 inch of an enemy unit. If 2 to 4 friendly Space Wolves characters begin the fight phase within 1 inch of an enemy unit, score D3 victory points instead. If 5 or more friendly Space Wolves characters begin the fight phase within 1 inch of an enemy unit, score D3 plus 3 victory points instead. And finally, Blood and Guts, score 1 victory point if an enemy unit was destroyed during the fight phase this turn. If 3 or more enemy units were destroyed during the fight phase this turn, score D3 victory points instead. And at this point, the Space Wolves are going to concede the game. Neither side will achieve Linebreaker, which means we will end up with the final score of 7 victory points for the Death Guard and 1 victory point for the Space Wolves. We do not add in kill points this mission, so no extra victory points will be added, and so we have a major victory for the Death Guard thanks to a Space Wolves concession at the beginning of Space Wolves turn 4. And so now that the game is over, I can go over 1 or 2 of my final thoughts on this particular game. First and foremost is I need to apologize about how messy this game was. I really do want to apologize about that. I'm sure it wasn't very fun to watch, having to go back and retroactively redo all sorts of dice rolls and things. The fact that the repulsor ended up getting blown up after all made things super messy, and I'm sure took away some of the fun of the game. The fact that so many things were forgotten when it came to the Plague Marines, both from their side and against them. Forgetting that they had Miasma of Pestilence in the Space Wolves shooting phase, and then forgetting that the Space Wolves had used the stratagem Seeking a Saga, just caused all kinds of problems. I think for the most part we got things resolved in the end properly, but still it's very messy and I'm sure very confusing to watch. And the fact that the Death Guard, because of going back and retroactively doing things, got command points back, which then led led to more things getting blown up, just caused a big mess and a big problem. So I do want to apologize about that. I don't like doing that, but I felt it was necessary for the integrity of the game, and there wasn't enough that needed to go back and be redone to scrap the game and redo it. But at the same time, maybe that would have been the right decision, since there were so many things forgotten over the course of the game. I don't know what was up with my memory. I mean, my short-term memory is pretty bad in general, I feel. But this particular game, I'm pretty sure I forgot some sort of special rule or something every single turn, and I do apologize for that, because I'm sure that makes it frustrating to watch. And of course, once that repulsor was retroactively killed off, everything just kind of fell apart for the Space Wolves, which leads into my second point, and of course that's the major reason for concession, and it should be pretty obvious at this point, but all the Space Wolves have left is this squad of 5 intercessors and this squad of 5 intercessors, and that is literally it. And unfortunately, that is not enough firepower to really do anything, especially since over the course of this particular game we've seen the Stalker bolt rifles do pretty much nothing, regardless of whether they were shooting at Plague Marines or the Land Raiders. So just bad news all around really for the Space Wolves in this fight. I think this fight really showed just how much more firepower the Death Guard had in the ranged firepower department compared to the Space Wolves. Between the squad of Plague Marines, the Chaos Land Raider, and of course the 2 Plague Burst Crawlers, which did quite well this game, the Death Guard really seemed to have everything in the bag right from the beginning. And of course, once again, the Space Wolves just had horrible luck. The fact that they failed to kill the Chaos Land Raider turn 1, even with all of the firepower that they had, including the help of the Wolf Guard battle leader being within 6 inches of both repulsors to give them reroll wound rolls of 1, it still wasn't enough to finish off the Chaos Land Raider, and then they failed to do any damage to it after that first turn, which is just insane. So once again, I do apologize about how messy the game was with going back and redoing stuff. However, I think it still was a fairly interesting game with both sides fighting over objective marker 5 here in the corner next to the crater. I really hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next one.